Beer-battered fish tacos, because there's nothing you could ever do to a taco that would make me say, that's too much. I'd eat my own hand in a taco if I could. Today on Point Choices, we're frying up some simple yet delicious Baja-style fish tacos. We're throwing together a crema for our slaw and as a topping, and an easy beer batter to turn these delicious pieces of fish into golden brown treats. Now, this recipe is so simple that I feel like I'm really just reminding you all that it exists, but I'll try to teach you some nuggets along the way that maybe you didn't think about, starting with oil. Now you can use any oil, vegetable, canola, peanut. Just remember that the oil will take on the flavor of whatever you cook in it. And that is why fish fry oil needs to be separated and only used for fish. Otherwise, you'll have chicken wings and fries that taste like fish, and you don't want that. But on the reverse side, this oil I have here is on its last fry. I've filtered it a bunch of times to maximize its use, but now it's at the end. So I'm going to use it because I have fried chicken wings and fries in it. So it's seasoned pretty well and will put some good flavor into the frying of these fish tacos. It works one way, but not the other. Totally fine to use fresh oil too, but just remember it's going to be only good for the fish after that. So maybe use an oil that's been used a few times on other things. And lastly, if you're wondering what this container is, it's an oil box that my deep fryer comes with. I can filter the oil and store it in here, which is super convenient. Anyway, I've got my Dutch oven set up today instead of said deep fryer because of the way that the beer batter is. It'll stick to the baskets of a deep fryer, so it's just easier to use a Dutch oven where it has more room to float around. I'll be heating this oil up to 375 today, knowing that once I put my fish in, it'll probably dip down to about 350. And I have this candy thermometer here just to let me know when the temperature is just right, but you can also just use a regular food thermometer. So let's go ahead and make our crema for our slaw, but also later on as a topping for our tacos. So I'm taking 3/4 a cup of sour cream. This here is table cream, so it's a little bit more liquidy, if that's a word. To that, I'll add in 1/4 a cup of mayo, 1 tablespoon of honey, 1 teaspoon of chipotle powder, juice of half a lime, and 1 teaspoon of taco seasoning. This is just McCormick's taco seasoning, but you can use whichever one you want. Mix it up and we'll give it a taste. And just FYI, I didn't have any today, but some pickled jalapeños in this would be amazing. Like 1/4 cup of those would be delicious. It'd almost be like that jalapeno cream sauce that Taco Bell has in their quesadillas. Next, we need like half a cup of fresh chopped cilantro, as well as 2 cups of fresh cut cabbage. You can go for a mix of purple and green if you want to play with the color, but I'm just going all green cabbage here today. And I'm putting my cabbage and cilantro in a separate bowl instead of just dumping it into the bowl that we made our crema in, because we want to reserve some of that for later as a topping, but we also don't want to coat this cabbage and cilantro with so much that it turns into a soup. Essentially, we probably made more crema than we need for the cabbage slaw, but it's better to have more than not enough. And just FYI for the cabbage, it has this little core here. We'll just cut that out with some diagonal cuts, and then we can thinly slice our cabbage, and this is a great time to work on your knife skills. So once that's chopped, mix it with cilantro, then pour in about, I'd say half of that crema. Mix it up so that everything is just coated. Then we'll taste and see if maybe it needs some salt or pepper. I added maybe half a teaspoon of smoked salt to mine and mixed and tasted it again, and then into the fridge it went covered while we worked on the other ingredients. This will give the slaw some time to let those flavors come together, so making it beforehand is a good idea. Next up is the beer batter. I've got 1 cup of all-purpose flour here, 2 tablespoons of that McCormick taco seasoning, 1 teaspoon of sugar, and that's going to help with some caramelization, so don't skip that, half a teaspoon of baking powder, and about a tablespoon of salt. This was that smoked salt again from earlier. Give that a quick whisk before we add in our beer, which today is this Modelo Mexican beer. Now I used almost the whole can. It was a 12-ounce can, so I'd say I used about 10 ounces of the total 12 in there. Enough was left over for me to pretty much have a sip. And you really just want to pour and whisk until it has a nice batter consistency. Sometimes you'll need less beer, and sometimes you might need the whole thing. This was the consistency I was going for, enough to coat but not clumpy. And listen, if you accidentally overshoot the beer and it's too liquidy, just add in some more flour to balance it back out. But a good trick is just to add a little bit of beer in, whisk and observe the consistency, then pour some more in, whisk around. If you just dump it all in and then whisk, you run the chance of just using way more than you needed. To another bowl, I'm just adding in some all-purpose flour. Maybe it was like 3/4 a cup. Really, it was just what was left in the bag. And this will be our first coating, and it'll help the batter stick to the fish. Speaking of, I've got some cod today. You can use any firm white fish, whether it be cod, flounder, tilapia. Hey, if you want to spring the money, you could do halibut. We're just going to break these into pieces that'll fit in our tortilla shells, which I happen to be buying some big ass ones today. So I'm just cutting this fillet in half because it's the perfect length for my tortilla. If you're using, say, smaller street size tortillas, you might want to break down this fillet into 4 pieces. And I just bought these frozen and only pulled out what I needed to cook. So this one fillet makes 2 big tacos, or it could have made 4 smaller tacos, but 1 fillet is definitely a filling amount for 1 person. So now it's frying time. My oil is up to 375. I'll roll my fish around first in the flour mixture, making sure it's all all coated and tap off any excess. Then into the beer batter and making sure all of it's coated well and let any excess drip off. And then into my oil it goes. I like to dip part of it in the oil first for a few seconds and then continue dropping it in. For me, that just ensures it won't drop in and just go straight to the bottom and stick. I could just be paranoid because I did have these stick to my deep fryer basket the first time I ever made these. I gave the fish 5 minutes of cook time, which was plenty of time to get golden brown and to heat up my tortillas, which normally I just do my tortillas in a hot skillet, but today I did it over the flame on my stove, and that extra flame kiss just really made things pop. Also, about halfway through the frying, I just turned the fish over so both sides could get that deep oil loving. Once your 5 minutes up, check that your fish is golden brown and then get it out of the oil and onto a cooling rack. This will keep the batter crispy versus putting them directly onto a paper towel and letting them steam and soften. Hit the fish immediately with some salt, and don't skip this. All fried things need a little salt loving when they come out. If you get it immediately when it comes out of the oil, the salt is more likely to stick versus bouncing off like this. And then we can assemble our tacos, going down with our flame-kissed tortilla, then our slaw, our fish, some pico, some pickled red onions, and maybe a little more of that reserved crema. But that's it. Simple, delicious, and as I mentioned before, very, very, very filling. And hey, this has been Poor Choices Kitchen. We have 2 ways you can support this channel. We have the YouTube memberships, which are now live, I believe. $2.99 a month is all we ask for on this platform. Or you go to the Patreon, which all we ask for is $1 a month. But on there, you can actually donate as much as you want. Both go a long way in helping us with these recipes in these here inflated times. And I know for some of you, fish tacos should only be grilled. Don't worry, that recipe will be coming down the pipeline. But in the meantime, enjoy that beer batter goodness, and I'll see y'all next week.